Absolutely. And look, that spy balloon should have been shot down the second that it crossed into U.S. airspace, off Alaska. And this lame excuse that they didn't want to shoot it down because they thought they would maybe harm somebody. I'll bet you there's a heck of a lot more boaters off the coast of the Carolinas than there are in the middle of Alaska. And so, that's just a lame excuse. And he also didn't, only because some reporters found out about it because they could see it, did they ever say, oh, yeah, there's a spy balloon here flying over the United States? You really have to wonder who this president works for.
Yeah, so were they waiting on this to not let it get out because of the Secretary of State Blinken's trip to Beijing, Christian Whiten, and the president's State of the Union address?
Yeah, that raises the question of why they did that. It's unknown. There's so much that really hasn't been explained. And even though hopefully our military is recovering what surveillance equipment was carried on this balloon, I'll bet that that's going to be kept classified and not truly released. Maybe it'll slip out here and there. I think the bigger issue here, though, is the complete lack of a China policy. The fact that the White House has already said this isn't going to change the State of the Union. Why not? Actually, the president has had some good sentiment against the Chinese Communist Party. 3 times he has said we would help Taiwan defend itself in a war, and 3 times he's been walked back by his own administration. I think the public would like to hear an actual China policy out of our president tomorrow, but apparently we're not going to get it.
Let's watch Democrats like Cory Booker jump on this now debunked Biden White House narrative that Trump and his team knew China flew balloons across the U.S. under Trump. They didn't know that. That's what they're saying. They're denying that. And you're going to watch the White House refute and rebut its own narrative. Watch this.
Well, I want to make one more point about this. I think it's problematic when for Democrat or Republican have one standard for one president and another standard for another president. Mm-hmm. We should remember that this is now known to have happened under the Trump administration multiple times.
I can't speak to what awareness there was in the previous administration about these. I can tell you that we discovered these flights after we came into office, and there's I'm not going to get into the specifics of how we did the forensics, but we became aware that at least on 3 occasions, surveillance balloons by the PRC transited U.S. airspace. I will say that from every indication that we have, that was for brief periods of time.
Congressman, brief periods of time is not 100 hours. It's not 4 days. They went briefly into Florida and Texas. It's not, it's far different from going over our Minutemen nuclear and missile sites, our military bases, our ports that may be needed if there's a war with Taiwan. So what is with this White House floating this fake narrative, trying to make this as being a Trump problem?
Well, because everything that comes out of the Biden White House or the Democrats is misinformation. They are the purveyors of misinformation and have been for years. The Russiagate, all the stuff that's come out is just a bunch of lies. And, you can tell when the Democrats, you can tell exactly what they're doing when they accuse the other side of doing it. And so when they accuse us of something, it's them that's doing it. So look, on this case, it's a pure failure of the Biden administration to protect America, protect American interests, protect American military facilities from spying by the Chinese.
It's America
Shoot it down.
first.
Exactly.
It's not the Democrat. They don't live for the Democrat Party. It's supposed to be about America. I mean, former President Trump immediately called this disinformation, Christian. Even John Bolton said it too. He's not, so far into the Trump crowd. So, it's the criticism is this: the White House is not protecting our borders and our skies. So, and this is coming right as the president says he's going to make his State of the Union, a foreign policy, a big focal point. Is he going to talk about this in Afghanistan?
Yeah, I can't imagine he's going to put a lot of emphasis on this. Yeah, and Robert O'Brien, another national security advisor under Trump, said no information came to him about this. Rick Grinnell, the former director of national intelligence, no information in the Trump administration about these Chinese balloon flyovers. At the end of the day, a lot of the people who seem to be driving this phony narrative of trying to say this is routine. I mean, why would you say that in the first place? They're the ones who wanted Blinken, the Secretary of State, to go over and have his meeting with Chinese leaders and Xi Jinping. And the point Apparently that was to set up another summit between President Biden and Xi Jinping. And why? What do we have to talk about? I mean, the theory now they're trying to spin is that Blinken's going to go and read the riot act if he goes over there. Well, that's not the
really,
Chinese,
China's
how
really
they're going
afraid of
to
them.
react to this.
China's really afraid of Secretary of State Blinken. And so the other thing you pointed out, Christian, that they knew about it, right? That they knew about these balloon flights through, crossing into Hawaii, Texas, and Florida, and voters weren't told, and Trump officials were not told. Who is keeping this secret in the Biden White House? This is exploding right in their face, Christian.
Right. Well, and, successive administrations have talked about a pivot to Asia and getting serious in the military. And when Biden failed in Afghanistan, he said, well, some of the murmurs out of the White House said, at least we can focus on Asia now. And that just hasn't happened. If you look, we have fewer ships and aircraft in the Pacific every successive year. That $100 billion we've sent to Ukraine, maybe it's necessary. It sure would be nice if the Europeans had paid more of that, because we could really use $100 billion in the Pacific to plus up deterrence so that maybe we don't have to fight China in the first place.
Congressman, why weren't voters told? Why weren't Trump officials told? Who is keeping America in the dark about Chinese spy balloons? This is probably the most incompetent thing, one of the most incompetent rebuttals and narratives coming out of this Biden White House to date. It's one of the most idiotic things we've ever seen, Congressman.
Well, I just can't believe that a national intelligence agency wouldn't inform the president of the United States that there are Chinese spy balloons flying over U.S. territory. That's beyond the pale. I mean, that's incomprehensible. And if they are, who are they? Okay, and why do they think that somehow they can keep that a secret?
Got it. Congressman Gimenez and Christian Whiten, thank you so much. Joining us now, former Assistant to President Trump.